All right, I got a super good idea for a tournament. When am I gonna have it? Let's see. Look at this weekend. Oh yeah, I forgot. Local tournaments going on this weekend. What about this weekend? Oh, that's when we're doing the family vacation. What about this weekend? Oh, is there a marathon going on through the course that weekend? Okay, well, what about this weekend? It's another tournament going on locally that weekend. Well, this one's got a tournament going on. It's not for a couple hours away, but it's a very popular tournament a lot of people are going to go to. I thought it would be a lot easier to find a date. Alright guys, welcome back. Scott Reek here with Trilogy Talk, TD101. Last time we talked about the whys of running a tournament. Why do you want to run a tournament? Now you're in this video, you've hopefully determined why you want to run a tournament. So now we got to figure out the when. When are we going to run the tournament and where are we going to run the tournament at? So when we look at a schedule, scheduling is very important. There's a lot of things that you have to factor in that you want to make sure, especially if you're going to run a tournament with the idea that it's a long-term tournament. If it's a one and done tournament, it's probably not going to be as a big a deal. If it's just for fun and you really don't care as far as how much extra stuff you put into, it may not be that big of a deal if it conflicts or depending on how many people. But if you're looking for a tournament that's going to grow, a tournament that you're hoping that will reach some type of capacity, you need to worry about scheduling. So a couple things to take into account. And first of all, if this is a PDGA event you're looking for, make sure you contact your state coordinator and your local clubs to make sure of schedule conflicts too, because for state coordinators, as an example, there are mileage restrictions, which are part of the PDGA Tour standards. So if you Google 2019 PDGA Tour standards or whatever year this is down the future, it'll show you the mile restrictions for like a C to a C tier, a C to a B tier, C to A tier, and so forth. So just make sure that you understand that even before you work too much into dates. Have a general range, so when you talk to your state coordinator, you can give him something like what's going on in the month of June, you know, type of thing. They'll typically be able to work with you on that. So finding somewhere on the schedule. Some of the things that you want to make sure for the schedule is, again, if it's sanctioned, are you competing against any other events within your mileage restrictions? Are there anything else going on in your town that disc golf wise that you might be conflicting with? And fun tournaments, charity tournaments, other PDGA events. Check your own personal schedule. Make sure that it's going to work. It's kind of funny and it seems pretty obvious, but I've seen people who will schedule a tournament that is an important weekend, but maybe that year they created it, it wasn't important. Not that like an anniversary, but not that an anniversary is never not important. But sometimes things happen where even my anniversaries will have celebrated a week earlier, a couple weeks earlier, a couple weeks late, which frees up my actual anniversary weekend. So just make sure if you're going to choose a weekend that it isn't a long-term weekend or it's going to cause an issue. One of the most important parts of scheduling for the success of a tournament is doing your best to find a tournament weekend that can stay consistent. If your tournament becomes popular, people will start to remember and want to go to it every year. And if they know that it's the second week of June every year, that is when they're going to plan, even if they haven't heard from you yet because you haven't gotten that far, or some jobs have to prepare them nearly a year out, 6 months out to take vacation time. So if they're used to it being the second week of June, that's when they're going to schedule it. And then if all of a sudden you have to change it because you weren't prepared for the schedule, then you're going to have people who may or may not be able to go depending on what their availability is based on what they thought or assumed. So again, things change. Sometimes we just don't have a choice, but those are the things that you want to think about when going onto the schedule. So again, other events, your personal schedule, but also what's going on at the park. You know, like we have a local park here in Kansas City that on the holiday, there is a big festival that goes on through the disc golf course. So you want to make sure you're not scheduling for that. Communicating with the parks and the local clubs to let them know that you're also looking at those dates. So when other people call them to figure out what's going on at the park, they can say there is a disc golf event going on that weekend. So if someone's going there for senior pictures, weddings, reunions, things like that, they'll be able to understand or know what's going on. So part of that scheduling is once you do lock in, just as a side note, communicating with the parks, make sure you're checking on things like a pavilion, parking, because sometimes you have to pay for those and sometimes you don't. But if you do have to pay for it and you elect not to because you don't want to deal with that expense, so you decide you're just going to set up in a tent outside of hole 1, but then the pavilion that's a couple hundred feet away from your course gets reserved with a 100-person family reunion that's now spreading into your tournament, that can cause an issue. So make sure you budget and plan for that. But that's all part of your scheduling when you're choosing which course that you're ultimately going to use. Also, again, making sure that park that there isn't other things going on, such as even track meets. Sometimes, like in my local park, the course isn't used, but twice a year, the park gets closed because they have a marathon that goes through. It doesn't go anywhere near the disc golf course, but the park itself is closed during those days. So again, understanding the schedule, finding when you're going to get it, and then once you have a date, check with your PDGA state coordinator or whoever helps you with your scheduling, if you have somebody, and find out kind of what their policies are. So like mine is, once you have a date set, that is your date from here going forward, unless you change it. And then if you have to change it, yes, then you kind of have to start over and figure that out. But if you pick the second week of June, it's successful. Next year, when I go to do the preparation for the schedule as the Kansas state coordinator, I'm automatically putting you down with the 2nd of June. Now, there are, again, some restrictions and some coordinators will have, like you can't just hold on to it forever. I need some type of commitment that you're going to be running that event, or your state coordinators will. But again, just to be aware of that schedule. So backtrack. When are you going to have it on the schedule? What's it competing with? Tournaments, family, what's going on locally that has nothing to do with disc golf, and then the course. So which course you're going to use. If you're in a city that has multiple courses, what type of year? Are you doing it in a rainy time of season? It's not necessarily a bad thing, but if you're on a course that floods, it might not be good, especially if you're trying to build something down the future. If it's a very open course, very few trees, and you're in the prime part of August where it's 100 degrees with very little shade, might be something you want to take into consideration. So again, it's all part of the scheduling of the why, when, and now where that you are ultimately going to have that tournament. So I hope this answers some questions. If there's some things that I did not mention, as always, put them in the comments. I will answer them in the comments, or potentially make a video if it's warranted, that I want to make sure to educate some people specifically on that topic. So again, put it down in the comments, like, share, contribute this YouTube channel. But until next time, keep sharing the Trilogy love with the world. See ya.